All right, finally, question number 4 on the 2021 FRQ list. This one, of course, involves a 2D array. You can expect a 2D array question, and many times they are a 2D array of objects. So be ready for that as well. In this case, you are writing a static class called, or a class with static methods that allows you to resize an array based on having a 0 row. So your first part in part A is, well, is this particular row in this array, this 2D array, does that row contain all zeros? And if it does, you return true. And the reason it's static is you don't need a object to write it. You could just use this ArrayResizer class to pass in a 2D array to determine whether it's all zeros. Second part is built on that. That says, given this 2D array, you want to return a new. This one down here. Given this 2D array, you want to return a new 2D array of integers that includes all of the numbers unless the entire row is 0. Unless the entire row is 0. This method you have to use it. You have to use that method. That tells you how many number of non-zero rows there are. So you will use that method in your solution to part B because you need to know the length of the returning array. So let's take a look at the solution. Part A, again, this one uses the enhanced for loop, the for each loop. If you did not do it that way, check in with me if you're not sure yours is correct. But the idea is you are looking through every row of this array, and as soon as you find a 0 in that array, you're going to return false. Okay? As soon as you find a 0. So you're looking, and remember, a 2D array is just an array where each row is a 1D array, or is an array. It's just an array of items that happens to be arrays. So here we go. You're just looking through every integer in that row, and that's how you say that in this particular array. If that particular value is 0, return false. Okay. Now, if you get all the way through the entire loop and never return a false, you return true, meaning they're all zeros. Okay. That entire row is zeros. Now, a common mistake here is this. Right here, you don't want this to be an if-else, because if, for instance, it did find, you would get an early return. You need to make sure you go through the entire array and to determine if there's at least one 0. So if in this case, this would only check the first value, and then it would return, and then the method would end. So be careful of that. You don't want to do that in this case. So that's part A. Again, if you used a regular loop, you would have to reference an I variable and so on and so forth. But it's absolutely possible. So let me know if you did that, and we can take a look at it. So here's part B. You are going to return a smaller array with all of the all of the 0 rows out. Okay, so this is going to return a 2D array, and it's that array with all of the 0 rows gone. So this is where you need that method number of non-zero rows, because you're going to need to use that to create the length. And then the number of columns is going to be the same as number of columns as this array. Okay. Again, you're just removing the rows. So this is the item that will be returned when I'm done. And you just create the number of rows, number of columns. Again, number of rows is determined with that method, and you have to use that method. That's what that little note says right here. That method to do it. And then you are going up, so we'll get to why that variable's there in a second. So again, you're going to loop through with 2 loops, in nested loops, through every row, okay, and then every column. And so this says, hey, is this current row a non-zero row? Okay, so you needed to use that in there. If it is, you want to, so meaning it's not all zeros, you want to copy it in each value into the smaller array. And so that's what's happening here. Okay, that's what's happening here. Now, this k value also has to increase. This is outside of that inner loop because you need this k value so that you can advance in the smaller array's row. Okay, each row needs to be one higher than the next time you add all the values, and k has to increase, so you're not replacing always at position 0. So you need 3 variables to make this happen. You need r and c to go through the parameter array, and then you need k to advance position of row position through the smaller array. So take a look at that solution, and once you've done that, don't forget to return it. So some people miss that return statement at the end, but that is the 2D array that you want to return like you said you would up here. So again, if you did it differently and you want to check it, contact me. Show up to OffStars and we can take a look. There's some wonderful notes here and some other ways to go about it and some things to avoid at the bottom. So hope this helps. Let me know if I can be of any more assistance.